how far would you go to make an impact in the world? The 10 incredible entrepreneurs will visit our campus to tell their stories and share the steps they took to be catalysts for change. The Entrepreneur Leadership Series, the most valuable one-credit class you will ever take.
Hi guys. Okay, I'm super excited to hear from Allison today. I had the privilege of eating with her, and she has some really cool stuff to say. Allison is the owner and artistic director of artEmotion. She is also a first soloist with Ballet West and has been on the company since 2007. A couple other things, she's been featured in Dance Spirit magazine, Point magazine, Dance Track magazine, super cool. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in ballet from Indiana University, which is super cool because a lot of ballerinas actually don't get college degrees. And yeah, super excited to hear her. Let's get a round of applause.
Thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate that. So, hi everybody. I'm really, really happy to be here. Again, my name is Allison DeBona, and I am the owner and artistic director of artEmotion, formerly known as the artEmotion Summer Intensive. I'll talk about that. I'm also a first soloist with Ballet West. If you don't know Ballet West, it's a professional ballet company in Salt Lake City, but I will let you know that we're one of the top 10 in the country, so one of the largest ballet companies. I've also recently been appointed principal of the Ballet West Academy School in Park City. We'll talk about that. Thanks. And I'm also a mom, and I consider that a full-time job. So I'm gonna list all 4 of my jobs here tonight. So I'm excited to talk to you about my journey of becoming a business owner. And I don't know, I didn't really ever think about it in the course of my lifetime, but now thinking back on it, I've always been a business owner. So my first job as a business owner was a lemonade stand that I very much put on the corner of the busiest road in my town. And I made money that way. I also had my siblings and everyone in town raking leaves, picking, I don't know, weeds from older people's houses. And I had a newspaper route when I was 7 years old, and I was on a bike going up snowy roads. So I've always worked. I've literally worked since I was 7 years old. And I never thought about it. So I guess it's ingrained in my mind. So to see myself here as a business owner, it does make sense. I'm gonna make a joke about myself. So yes, I graduated from college. The last time I made a PowerPoint was in 2002 when I was in college. So I am not a business major. I never went to school for business. And I think that's important here tonight because all of us will have a different way forward. I hope you all do see a way to become business owners and dive into a passion that you have. But know that there is not a single route to get there. So I want to leave you with that. You can't look at other people's roads to success and expect the same for you. So if there's anything you leave tonight, know that, okay? So here we go. artEmotion. So I started my business in 2014, and it was called the artEmotion Summer Intensive. So as a professional ballet dancer, my husband is also a principal dancer with Ballet West. We dance from August until May generally. And we find ourselves on what is essentially a layoff period. So I'll tell you a little bit about ballet dancers. So we wear $15,000 tutus, couture tutus, and we make pennies. So what ballet is, it's a glamorous art form and not a glamorous life, okay? So we have to hustle in the summer times, and frankly, I got really sick and tired of having to go find other jobs. And so really, this is where this all began. So in the summer, we started a summer intensive for students in Cleveland, Ohio. So it was in 2019 that we switched to artEmotion because we wanted to rebrand. We wanted to get away from just summer intensives, and this is how we saw our way forward. And so we develop artists, not just dancers, and I'll talk a little bit about why we wanted that to be a part of how people understood what artEmotion was. I'm calling it breaking boundaries. I'm gonna talk a lot about my experience as a ballet dancer and just how I've used the ability to speak out against things that I didn't like about the community and how I was going to shape my business around the changes that I wanted to see that I wasn't seeing happening from establishments at the time. Okay, so in 2006, I graduated from Indiana University, Bloomington, and I started my professional dancing career at Ballet West when I was 24. Why this is important and why this plays into why I started my business is this is unheard of. So as a ballet dancer, when you're really young, you're expected to go into the professional realm at anywhere between 16 to 20, and you're often told if you do not, you won't make it there. So on top of that, I'm 5'9". That was also something very often I heard, you don't have the right body for ballet. And all of this is so important, and it is what shapes artEmotion and the whole reason behind we started this company. So I want to introduce to you that timeline. In 2009 to 2011, this will be a huge part of artEmotion, is that Ballet West was asked to film a reality TV show. It was bought by the BBC to begin with, and then they sold it off to the CW. So we were on national television for 2 years. It's also a huge part of artEmotion, and we'll get there as well. In 2014, 2014, artEmotion started as an idea on my aunt's porch. So really that simple. And it was actually my aunt who came up with the name. So artEmotion, art and motion, or art and emotion. So it's really a play on words and a big reason behind why we do what we do. So I'll get there too. Okay, so this is the fun part. Again, as a ballet dancer, you're often told you're not good enough, you don't have the body type. It is not the best way to grow up as a child. So when we started this business and we were going around teaching at ballet schools around the country, we were seeing the same thing. We were seeing young children being defeated at such young ages. And so my husband and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, we were in this TV show, we were given a platform. What are you gonna do with a platform like that, right? And so you also have to take the opportunities that you'll be handed in the terms of, do you have a bigger purpose in life? So I really looked at being in a reality TV show on a really weird station like the CW. You guys know the CW, you know what they put out there. We're like, no, we're here for a different reason, and it's to reach kids and to show them that there can be a change. So the passion that we have for our art form and making sure that people are taken care of, that's where it starts. The next is empathy. I like to say that we really built artEmotion on being able to understand where people were coming from, where children were coming from, and where dancers that we were meeting across the country were coming from. An idea. So we knew that we had something bigger at large here, so we were like, what is this idea that we're gonna go forward with? Are we just going to do a conventional ballet school? Maybe. It's a saturated place to be. So we started brainstorming. I'll get there. What is the need? If you want to be just another ballet school, how are you going to stand apart? What is that need? And lastly, a niche. So once you figure out what a need is and what you want to go forward with, you have to find a way to set apart yourself from other people. So these are just bullet points, but I'm going to get into this a little bit later. So how my personal experiences helped develop a business model. So we were at dinner earlier today, and some of the questions were like, how are you able to reach people? So artEmotion is dedicated to changing the stigmas behind ballet and what ballet teaches you at a young age. And so being on a TV show, you can imagine. I woke up to a barrage of very interesting tweets the very first episode. And it was backlash because I was frankly the you-know-what of reality TV at the time. And so my brothers and my cousins got on Twitter and they said we're gonna be these breaking point bullies, and what they were starting to do was anytime somebody said something bad about me, they wrote back in a way that could relate to them or start to diffuse the situation. So we were starting to hear what people were having to say. So I was the bully in Breaking Point, and they made me out to be somebody who treated people very poorly. So what started to happen is dancers who might have experienced negative feedback from the ballet world, they were the first people to tweet at me. Like, who do you think you are? Why would you do this? This is why ballet is terrible. Instead, they started to get to know me in a way that made them feel like they could relate to me. So I'm like, oh, sorry, you know what I have to say? I'm very nervous. I need the audience to be completely black, because that's what I see whenever I'm a ballet dancer. We dance in front of thousands of people and I don't see them, and then I see your faces, so I'm gonna slow down for a second. I'm gonna be honest, and this is part of my business model too. Overcoming stereotypes and stigmas. So this goes back to finding a niche in your business. So ballet schools are at large, right? If you drive down the street, how many ballet schools do you see on the corner? None? You don't see ballet schools, you're not paying attention to them. They're everywhere. So, young babies, you have a toddler, you put them in a tutu, you put them in some dance tights, you might start ballet at a very young age. Like, ballet is something that people want to get into. So we started to model our business in a different way, and I used my experiences on this TV show to kind of change that. So, thanks guys. Let's start again. I have to go back here. I'm moving too fast. My brother actually helped me make this, and he was the mind behind the ideas after I just blurted out things. So I want to talk about my personal experiences and how I built my model. I wanted to make sure that everything that negatively happened to me in my lifetime as a ballet dancer didn't happen to somebody else. Let's start there. So when you're building a business, and it goes back to the passion of it, you have to believe in what you are starting. If you do not believe in what you are starting, it's not going to go anywhere. Or it just becomes what we like to say, just a means to make money. But really, why do you start a business? All of you probably have a hope and a dream, correct? How many of you feel like whatever it is that you're dreaming up is really something that you care about, not just because you need to make money? Yeah, do not lose sight of that. Do not lose sight of that. And that is the whole reason why I started artEmotion. And so the empathy behind it, you meet people, you're gonna meet people as you start your business, and they're gonna wanna talk to you, right? So because of Breaking Point, I was able to travel the country teaching children. And a young lady who might have auditioned for a major school comes up to me and they say, I really want to come to your summer intensive, but I'm afraid I'm not going to make it in. And you're like, oh, excuse me, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 11 years old. And you're like, how at that age can you possibly think that you're not good enough at something? So that means somebody failed them, correct? So I took it upon myself right there. I said, I'm going to be that person to give you an opportunity. So you have to think of, when you start a business, how are you going to serve somebody else? Because I think it's often easy to get wrapped up into, am I going to make a living? Am I going to be able to sustain this business? But I think somebody mentioned it up here earlier. You have to find a way to serve the public honestly. And I think that is the best way to find success. You have to approach everything you do honestly, and it begins with listening. So now I'll go on here. How personal experiences help develop a business model. When you're developing a business and you want it to be unique, you have to take your life experiences and you need to put them in front of you. And sometimes that's very hard to do, but I think it's the way to build a business in an honest way with yourself too. So if you want to see a change in something, so I do a lot better with questions or if people speak up. So let me just ask you right here. Do you have a dream to start your own business one day? Okay.
Work, like something with the UN and just expanding
What?
agricultural resources and just making sure like food works in the world.
Okay. So I don't know if you heard her, but she wants to work with the UN in an agricultural business platform. So what does that mean to you, right? We all might understand maybe the tip of the iceberg, but are there things about that you disagree with? Is there something that maybe you've experienced or something that you don't like, that you're like, you know what, that could be done better? So she complains to you often. Okay, so now I'm feeling like I'm getting my groove back. So here's the thing. If you want to see a change in something, you have to do it. That's what I found with artEmotion. I've been dedicated to ballet for my entire life. I've been dancing since I was 3 years old. I've seen so many things that I didn't like about the art form, but I was stuck in it. I was so in love with it, but it hurt me so badly, and I see other people getting hurt badly, and I'm like, well, this has got to change. And I realized the only way it was going to change was through me, right? So when you start a business, you have to approach it that way. You're like, how am I going to make this field better? How am I going to make this experience better for somebody who's going to come and pay money that they don't have, right? Because nobody has to spend money on your business. You realize that, right? You have to earn their respect. You have to earn them as a customer. So how are you going to do that, right? And you have to make it personal, and you have to be able to relate to them. So that's what I was starting to do, and I was starting to learn that I had this amazing platform. I was already a professional ballet dancer, but I had national recognition, and what was I going to do with that? And how was I going to turn a very terrible reputation into something that was worth something? So that's what that was. I took social media backlash in a positive way. So you guys are living in the social media age. So how old, when were you born? 2000 what? 2001. Wonderful. Yes. Oh, you're the oldest ones. Oh, what is that? 2005, 2006? Okay, that's when I was graduating college. God bless. But when the reality TV show Breaking Point aired, it was 2009, 10, 11, around that time. Social media was there, but do you guys remember Periscope? Yeah, maybe. Okay, it was like one of the first ways that you could live stream a video, but it really wasn't a thing. And even Instagram really wasn't a thing. But Twitter was a thing. And so I realized that social media and the negative aspects of it I already didn't like. But I also realized that it was going to be important to my business. Do you guys feel that way right now about social media? Do you hate, love it? Yeah. Okay, you're going to continue to hate, love it, but you have to find a way to make it work for you. Okay, it's really, really important. So I took the negative aspects of what social media was doing, and I started to use that to my advantage, but then I also started to switch that around, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later. Finding common ground. So when you're starting to form a business, there are, like we just talked about, there are going to be a lot of things you don't like, but there are things that you're also going to have to accept. And that was really hard on me. So you have to realize that when you go to start a business, you're going to have dozens and dozens and dozens of goals. And you're going to achieve some of them, and some of them you are not going to achieve, and you also have to be okay with that. Okay, so I think unrealistic expectations don't work. So for me, finding the common ground of all the things I didn't like about ballet, how I was going to shape my ballet school around that, I had to realize I had to give some of those things up. And that was hard to do. So if you can learn that early on, it's definitely going to help you. And lastly, the easiest part now I'm going to be able to talk about is really defining the brand. So someone mentioned that earlier too. In a saturated art form like ballet, like I said, there are millions of ballet schools, but they all have the same way of working. I had found that everything was the same. I was hearing the same things, same repertoire that kids were able to learn. It was the same expectations. You can't be a ballet dancer if you don't dance 20 hours a week at 10 years old. That's unrealistic, right? So I started to find my personal story. And I said, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I actually started ballet when I was 3. I quit from 8th grade to 11th grade. And I wanted to be on drill team and go to football games. And I was told, like, that's the end of ballet for you, honey. You missed the most formative years. I went to college. If you go to college, you're never going to be a ballet dancer. You're going to be too old. Could you imagine hearing that right now, like at what, 21 years old? Like, you're too old to achieve your goal. You just spent thousands of dollars on your tuition and you're too old. Right? That was me. But then I was like, wait a minute. I'm a professional ballet dancer. I actually made it to the top of my field. So I need to tell my story, and I need to give dancers a different opportunity, but show them that whatever it is that they are faced with, they can overcome that. And that's going to be in every business. So my family only owned bars and restaurants my entire life. And yeah, he's laughing. So I grew up with a stepdad who only owned restaurants and bars. And he taught me a lot about overcoming the obstacles of, you know, he told me, Allison, you're not going to make money for 5 years. Have you heard that yet? I'm sure you have in your business classes, but have you talked to any other people who have started a business and they're like, you're not going to make money for 5 to 10 years? Isn't that kind of scary? That's reality, everyone. That's why you have to be passionate about what you do. But I was like, okay, that means how am I going to find more people to want to come to my ballet school so that maybe I can make money? Well, I have to look at the tuition at other ballet schools. And I have to make it that much less, but I have to give them a better product. How do you get there? When you start a business, how do you get there? If you look around at your competitors and you're like, I have to offer a product for less money, but I have to give them a better product than the guy that lives next door. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, that's good. Test out your own products. What's that? Your own time. Go ahead, what were you going to say? Okay, I like where this is going. Explain, but you have to physically show. You have to expect to show up at your business for ungodly hours. If there were 32 hours in the day, you were working 36. Unfortunately, there's 24, so you do not sleep. If you want to be successful, you have to put in that time and you have to understand before you start that job that that's the dedication. So in my opinion, I feel like a lot of business owners, they quit. New business owners, they end up quitting. They quit on a dream and they quit on a passion because nobody told them early on, you're working all day long. You are the face of your business. You cannot trust somebody you don't know to run your business in the very early stages. So every ballet class, I was in the front of the room. Every email I got from a parent, I was answering. Every phone call I was answering. And since 2014 is 2022, I still do that. So you have to dedicate yourself in ways that maybe isn't explained to you. But I saw that through my family. My stepdad was the last one to close a bar every night at 4 a.m. He didn't sleep. But I saw that work ethic and I saw it work. So that was the beginning of my brand. I was going to build a ballet school, which I'm sure not a lot of you know about ballet, but I was building a ballet school around how I was honestly living. So I would suggest that when you're looking at building a business, how are you honestly going to live in that business, even as a customer? Have you thought about that before? Anyone? It's really easy to put yourself as the owner of a business. You have to put yourself as a customer of your business. So when you design a product, it has to be around what would make you feel happiest if you were paying for that product, okay? Make the mistakes. So I want to really talk about this. I felt like I had to grassroot this ballet school. I used social media, but I also found a need to want to work with already established companies, and I've made mistakes, and I've got burned, and I've made good choices, and they flourished. So other things that I've done is I've tried multiple different things, and I'm not going to list them, but you know, I went too fast. I tried different ways to open up my business to people and they failed. So I don't want to get into all of that and all the failures and the wonderful things that did work out. But what I'm trying to get at is that you have to expect to make mistakes. So I don't know if, in my opinion, if you want to start a business, you're probably a go-getter, right? You're probably really competitive. Anyone? Who's competitive as all hell? Just raise your hand. We all are, right? We're all friends with everybody, but we want to outdo you. You have to have that kind of tenacity in order to start a business. What else? What are some of my traits? I'm really stubborn. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. So you're going to make 1,000,001 mistakes, and you have to be okay with that. But you can't stop there. Okay. So I've heard that a lot in my time too. She does too much. That's not going to work out. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And they're like, what? You know? So I just want you to not be afraid to try all of the things out and see what works and what doesn't work, because probably your first draft isn't going to work, okay? So for an example, I'm at Ballet West. I partnered with Ballet West in 2017, and it was a great accomplishment, but other partnerships didn't work out. But it didn't stop me. So the next thing I want to get into is just adapting and evolving as a business owner. So we all experienced COVID-19, right? I'm also a comedian. Yeah. So imagine doing ballet in the era of COVID-19. How do you do that? Anyone try? Alexa? Yeah, Emerald? Yeah, Vivian. Okay, these are some of my adult ballet students, and I'm going to get into that next. You have to, when you own a business, you have a dream, you have a business model. You're going to hit 101 roadblocks, in my opinion. Businesses that may not have survived COVID-19 may not have been open to evolving. They wanted to keep things as they've always seen it because it was the easy way of doing that. And we looked at ourselves and we're like, okay, how are we going to keep ballet alive if we have no idea if we're ever going to be back in a ballet studio? Do you remember feeling that way? Did you ever feel that way? We're like, are we ever going to get back to normal life? I lost my job as a dancer. So did my husband. So we had a 1-year-old in the house and we had no job, aside from a ballet school that just got canceled because of COVID-19. We had no income. My husband built a sprung floor in our garage, and we taught virtual ballet lessons for 8 hours a day. Now, what this did was opened up our United States small business arena to the world. So we were finding that dancers from all over the world were emailing us and say, you know what, you're doing online classes, I heard about you. And we're like, okay, we're on to something here, because people didn't want to try it because, you know what, how could you do ballet in your bathroom? How could you do ballet in your kitchen? Well, I was like, well, let me show you. You know, we literally, we created a dance space for everybody. But that was a huge part of the success of where artEmotion is now, because ballet was always known as an elite art form, always known as just specific to a certain individual with like the perfect situation. And we started making ballet more accessible. And that was by accident. That was complete by accident. So now we have a virtual ballet assembly that we're keeping, and still even now we do virtual classes, and we have tons of people every week because, you know what, we didn't realize it. There are a lot of moms like me that don't have time for themselves, but they do have an hour when their kid is sleeping, and they go and take my ballet class online. So you have to look at every opportunity as also an opportunity to learn. And I think that will make you a successful business owner. You can't just expect everything that comes your way. You have to understand that you're also a student. You're never the master. You're never the master, even as an owner. And it's really important when you mentor, and I think someone else mentioned that, when you mentor people that start to work for you, you have to look at them as also a learning experience. And so adapting and evolving your business, it's important. And you have to be open to maybe your original thought on what you want it to be and not ending up that way. Okay? I can't wait to the questions portion of this. I'm getting almost done to this. So I'm going to go back to my brother. He's like, sis, you just have to spell it out for them. And I'm like, okay, is that what a PowerPoint is? Do you guys find PowerPoints a little bit boring? Raise your hand. Please say yes. If you don't lie, just be honest with me. I'd rather honestly have your questions. But he said, let's just break it down. So in 2014, I started my first summer intensive. And guess what? With $0. I forgot to mention that. I had no money to start a business. That's probably an important thing to add. I just had social media, and I had my followers. And I said, let's just see if we get kids. And we ended up with 37 kids the very first year. By 2015 and 16, we were up to like 150 students. So we took a real chance. And I don't think I've spent a dime of my own money yet. Okay? But that's how much I believed in the product that I was selling. We produced our first show in 2015. We started adding more programs in 2016, so it was a really quick journey to adding and growing, again, with no money. I literally was like, I'm just gonna do this. And my family was like, are you crazy? And I'm like, yeah, because if it doesn't work out, I'm not losing anything. And that's what you have to understand too. You're gonna take all of these chances, and you might lose some money, but what's money? That's another one of my jokes, you guys. You're gonna end up losing money at some point. In 2017, we partnered with Ballet West, and that was mainly just to be able to be home a little bit longer because we were traveling so much. And blah, blah, blah. Questions? I'm so much better on the whim. My brother's like, did you practice? No, I didn't practice. I'd actually rather hear from you guys, and then I'm gonna be able to answer your questions and make more sense of this. Anybody? Yeah. Yes, thank you for asking this. I didn't. So my business model, I went back to this, honesty. I've been so honest with people. I've gained people trust because I was honest. Anytime I started getting burnt out, I talked about it. I talked about it publicly. And, so I started noticing I got pregnant. And I was one of the first ballerinas in the United States, truly, that started talking about what being pregnant as a ballet dancer was like. And then I was working. And I started talking about that. I'm like, I'm really tired. I can't handle this right now, but I have to because I have a child. And I started talking to people as if I were talking to you personally, through social media. And I realized that I was becoming sort of like a martyr, and I took that on as well, but I didn't hide when I was having a bad day. So that's how I dealt with burnout. I actually talked about it. So as a business owner, if you find this, and you will, you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to seek help, and you have to be able to let people help you. So that's how I dealt with that. My husband, but yeah, you're gonna go through that a million times. And if you're really in love with what you do, you have to work through that. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the stigmas around ballet, anyone want to name them? Weight, stuck up. Okay, stuck up, I love that. Who said that? Stuck up, okay. Stuck up, weight, what else? Perfection. Age, body type, yeah? When you become a mom, you're done. Guys, don't dance. Yeah, so all of those things are things that I've heard or somebody I've known personally heard. And it bothers me. And so I have the personality that I could give a crap about what you say to me. I don't know you. Even if I do know you, I don't get my feelings hurt very often. But most people do, right? So because I have this personality, I said, I'm gonna be that person in the way. I'm gonna stop that, and I'm gonna use this for my business. So student programs, for an example. How are we gonna change this? We are going to accept everybody who is passionate about ballet. So that's where we develop artists, not just dancers, came in, okay? Because ballet is first an art form before anything else, but it gets thrown into this perfectionist sport. So we started having auditions, open auditions, and every audition I started it this way. I said, there's a place for everybody. This is actually just a master class. This is a way for you to gain experience with me or whoever this master teacher is to learn something. So we started taking away the idea that they were auditioning and that they were going to be in a judgmental environment. And then we modeled all of our programs after that. So we have 150 kids in a room. And the very first question I asked them is, who wants to be a ballet dancer? And all 150 dancers raised their hand. And I say, okay, just like I did with you guys, let's be honest. Who really wants to be a ballet dancer? You back there. I've got an adult program for you. They start putting their hands down. Okay, so we're gonna start the next 3 weeks honestly. Maybe you don't wanna be a ballet dancer, but as a ballet student, you're gonna learn self-respect, you're gonna learn respect for other people, you're gonna learn how to read a room, you're gonna learn how to talk to other people, You're going to learn boundaries, and most of all, the discipline that you have to have in order to be successful at ballet will make you the best at everything you do. And I let parents in the room for that bit. So ballet has been off limits for parents for who knows how long. You drop your kid off, you're not allowed in the room, it's hush hush, you have no idea what goes on there. I started inviting them in and they heard me talking to their kids like that. And they're like, okay, this woman is really trying to change the way she develops a student. We started in an exclusive adult ballet summer intensive. So some of the individuals in this room have come. And that was my husband's idea. I won't take that on myself. But he said, Allison, ballet is a dying art form. Who wants to go sit in a ballet if they're not a ballet-domain? Like the fast-paced world of just being able to see everything you want, you can watch anything on YouTube. How are you going to pay $120 to go to the ballet? He said, we're going to get them back in the studios through actual movement. So in 2015, we started an adult ballet summer intensive in Detroit. And we started it on a whim, and we thought, how many people are going to come? We packed that place. Because there were people like Emerald back there who had heard, once you become a mom, you're never going to be able to dance. Right? So we started making opportunities. So we were talking a little bit about The Outliers, the book The Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. And it was, I love that book, and I hope you guys have read it or will read it. But everyone can find success with opportunity. And so even as a business owner, you want to give somebody an opportunity to achieve or gain something that they feel like they really need. So, I don't know. Even if you want to be a plumber, you want to own your own business, you got to be on call for them at 2:30. How many overnight plumbers are there? But there are a lot of them that will get there at 8 a.m., right? So you have to just find ways within the community that you're trying to build to be a little bit different, but then reach them when they need it most. And that's sort of what artEmotion has been doing and trying to change the stigma of ballet, is we're listing all the negative things that we might have heard ourselves and offer something different. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. I don't split my time. I'm going to be very honest with you. So when I got pregnant with my child, I was the first person to say, you can have it all. I don't actually believe that, to be honest with you. I have 3 jobs at the moment. I'm actually going to give up my stage career because I felt like I wasn't having enough time for my child. So I don't want to give you an unrealistic expectation of what it's going to be like to have a family and run your own business. And that goes for the men in this room too. It's not specific to women. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not, because you have to be dedicated to both equally, but you know that's not possible, right? So what I'm starting to learn right now is sometimes you have to give something up. And for me, I'm giving up dancing on stage because I realize I can't do it all. That's my best answer. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And that's where the listening comes in. Yeah, so I love that question. I don't know if everyone heard it, but I have the passion behind my product, but I also have the personal experience behind my product. But he's saying maybe I just have the passion for my product, but not the personal experience with it yet. And so my opinion is to just open up your business to feedback. Talk to the customers that walk in the door. Talk to the customers that call you, or the ones that leave the messages online. It's really hard, especially as an entrepreneur, if you're the person that feels responsible for everything, the good and the bad. So you get a negative review, or you get negative feedback, and it's like this. And you're like, but that's not what I meant, or that's not what I intended. How do you explain that? You don't. You have to give in immediately, and you're gonna say, okay, I hear you. So here's how I'm going to do better for you. And that's how you gain the trust. Anyone else? Yeah. That's like a train wreck. Choom. I don't know if I have one. No. I've never really had the personality to like gravitate or cling on to an ideology or an individual. And I don't know if that's unique, and I don't know if that's strange. But I think it's easy to do that. And when building a business, you might try to model the success of somebody or the failure of somebody to try to build what you're building. I don't know. I've literally just tried to, like I said, build a product that would have made me happy as a customer. And so that's kind of a narcissistic way of looking at it. But I don't know. Nobody. Ooh, no one's ever asked me that before. Now I have to think on this. That's got my mind racing. Cool. Anything else? Yeah. Who is first? The gentleman says the lady goes first. Mm-hmm. I don't have those moments. I just don't, because I'm not afraid of failure. I've experienced that so many times as a young person through ballet, and I've heard all of those times, no, not good enough, all of those things, that by the time I got to adulthood, like I said, I could care less. So when COVID hit and I turned to virtual, I actually was in a meeting with a lot of people that won't be named, and I said, I think we need to do this. And they're like, no. I'm like, yes, we do. We have no idea when COVID is going to end. Let's look at history, right? But in my mind, all I was thinking about was providing for my family. So even if that meant like one class a day and I was getting paid for 1 hour of a day, I felt like I was achieving my goal of doing everything I possibly could to provide for my family. And that's why everything that I do, even through artEmotion, is to better somebody else. And I really, truly mean that. It's just an honest approach to how I started my business and how I run my business. Is I genuinely am either trying to take care of my family, my immediate family, or my family in other places, or somebody else, like a child that I've become so close to, or a family that I've become close to. And so when I run my business, honestly, I don't turn around and find anything negative even about my failures. I'm like, I tried my best. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I love this question. So I went to college, and I've had a conversation with a college professor about this, but what I think college did for me as a dancer is it gave me a voice. So in ballet, you're often told, you don't say a word, you walk in, you take the bar, yes ma'am, yes sir, you leave. And I was never that. So even when I got to Ballet West, I was the one putting myself out there. And I was the one speaking up. And I was the one showing up with my hair like not in a proper bun. Why that worked out to my advantage is because when people from the outside came to Ballet West, they noticed me. So I got more opportunity, and that's how I got good. I was a rebel. Still am a rebel. No, so it goes back to the opportunity thing. You have to make yourself unique. You have to make your business unique, and then you get better at your business or better at your craft with the opportunity. And, people notice me, so they call me and they're like, I want to work with you. That's an opportunity for me to better my business. And that's sort of what I did with ballet. is every chance I got, I just put myself out there, embarrass myself sometimes, but yeah, and worked my butt off once I went back to it. Yeah. Okay, so artEmotion in 2022, we still maintain all of our summer intensives for students and adults. So I didn't really talk too much about the adult community, but we offer dancing opportunities and performance opportunities for anyone over 18, whether they've ever danced a day in their lives. And that's the passion part. So we have those. We do master classes throughout the year. We do private lessons, and we started producing some shows. So Ballet West asked us, last year was our first major production. We produced for Ballet West for the Utah Arts Festival. My boss had never let anyone do that before. But now that I'm retiring and my husband is retiring, we're going to start to expand mainly in the adult sector of what artEmotion is. And we're going to be starting an app so that people can have ballet on the go. So when they're in their hotel room or stuck in the airport, they can get in some pliés. And also I'm in the midst of designing a leotard line for all body types and all skin tone colors. So that's another way I'm changing the way things go. Ballet leotards only fit a single body type. They just do. How can you have an inclusive environment if what is required of you to wear doesn't fit you? Things like that. That's how I see the future of artEmotion. I really feel like it's like only the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ah! Thank you. I said I don't sweat in ballet class anymore, but I'm pretty hot here. Yeah.